have gone a little bit crazy. Hi guys, this is Rosa Kelly. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm here with a huge book haul. So welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you some books that I have purchased. Yeah, I got a lot of books. So some of these books are fantasy, some are mystery, some are middle grade or young adult. So I have a little bit of everything. I didn't put anything into sections, so we're just gonna go with the flow. So the first book that I have here to share with you is the Infernal Devices series. Now this is a trilogy by Cassandra Clare. So this is the trilogy that comes before the Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron that I shared with you last time. So I have them right here. So this is the Chain of Iron and the Chain of Gold. So I have read amazing reviews about these books and I definitely wanted to read these, but I do want the full experience. So I am going to be reading this trilogy ahead. But the next book that I have here is The Kite Runner. So this is by Khaled Hosseini, and he is the same author of The A Thousand Splendid Suns, which I recently read and it moved me to pieces. I absolutely love this book. So I believe this is about the same family, and this is actually a book that should be ahead of this one, but I kind of read them in reverse. And they're not a series, they're standalone, but I believe they talk about the same family, so this is probably like a generation ahead. But yeah, so I can't wait to get to read this book as well. Next book that I have here is The 10,000 Doors of January. Now this is a book by Alexis Harrow. I found this book as I was in Barnes & Noble. I love the cover, so I picked it up and I kind of started reading a little bit of the first chapter and I was totally engaged and hooked on this book, so I can't wait to read it. So this book is about this girl January who goes to this mansion and then she finds this book, and this book talks about different secrets and different doors, different adventures. It talks about books within books. I'm just so intrigued by this book. I can't wait to read. So the next book that I have here is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. And so this book is like a modern fairy tale. This is about three sisters and they're quite strange. They kind of go missing and then they have no memory of what has happened to them. So then when they grow up, they kind of start going back and trying to remember what they live as kids. I'm just so intrigued about it. It's like a combination of fairy tale, mystery. Yeah, excited to get to this one as well. The next book that I have here is Sirk. Now this is by Madeline Miller, who is also the author of Song of Achilles, which is so far my favorite book of the year. So this is a book about Sirk, who is the daughter of the god of the sun, who is Helios. And so she's kind of like a strange kid and she goes to the mortal world looking for companionship. That's all I know, and yeah, I'm definitely putting these on my TBR for this. So the next book that I have here is Fly Away by Christine Hanna. Now this book is about two best friends, Tully and Kate, and they kind of grow up together and they promise to always be there for each other. However, as they become adults, they both had like a series of life struggles and both are dealing with their own internal losses. And so I think this is a book about self-discovery, self-love, finding strength, and yeah, and I just think it's beautiful. The cover is beautiful and I can't wait to read this book. Ooh, this is moving. So the next book that I have here is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I've heard so much about this book. This book is about glamour. It's about shocking secrets, ambitions. So the next book that I have here is The Love Story of Missy Carmichael. I think that is how you say that. It's by Beth Morey. And so this is a book about this lady who is really lonely, and there's something that she has done in her past to deserve this loneliness. But it is also a book about second chances, and I'm honestly intrigued about what she has done. So I'm too noisy. I have to find out. This next book that I have here is The Queen of Paris by Coco Chanel. Oh no. Wow. Next book that I have here is The Queen of Paris, and this is a novel of Coco Chanel by Pamela Binnings. And so this is the story, of course, of Coco Chanel and her story of survival during World War II, the things that she had to do to stay alive. She was hidden. She had to collaborate with some Nazi forces. Anyway, so I'm always looking for those type of survival stories, and they're so inspirational, I think, and especially Coco Chanel. She's such an icon. And so yeah, and the cover is so beautiful. And speaking about beautiful survival stories, here I have the I Am Malala book. So this is, of course, the life of Malala. As we all know her, I never actually read her book. I've watched so many documentaries about her, and I love seeing like when she interviews people, when she has like conversations with other humanitarian people. So I think she is one of the most influential person in terms of, you know, like helping women, education, leadership, and it's just such a good role model. So this is actually a book that I bought for my daughter, and she already started reading this, but I also want to get to read this book. I think this is a must read for everyone. So the next book that I have here, it's another beautiful survival story. So this is called The Children's Train by Viola Ardone. And so this is the story of these children on the aftermath of World War II. I know it's gonna be a sad story, but like I said, I always like to read about survival stories, new beginnings, and this seemed like a very interesting novel to have as well. Next book that I have here is The Sunflower Sisters by Martha Hall Kelly. This is a book based on true story, on true events that happened during the Civil War. So it follows the lives of three ladies. One is a union nurse, one of them is a former slave, and the other one is a plantation owner. So it talks about all the cruelty that was happening, and I think it's a very important read. I always look for historical novels that have a lot to teach, and I think they're still very relatable these days as well. So this next book, it's called American Dirt by Janine Cummins, and this is another book that talks about a lot of social problems we have these days. So it talks about immigration, it talks about the war with the drugs, the cartel, and all of that. So another one that I think it's going to be a very interesting read. Okay, so the next book that I have here is The Black Kids by Christina Hemmons Reid. The cover is gorgeous. So this is a book about this girl. She lives in LA and she is living a normal life, and then something happens to this black man who gets bit by police, and then the whole town is upside down. There are riots, there are protests, and then she realizes she is one of the black kids. So it talks about a lot of racial injustice, and another one that I think is a very important read. And so yeah, get into this one really soon. Next book that I have is Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. So this is a book that I've been wanting to read for a long time. It talks about how children in Tennessee were separated from their parents and put into this orphanage where they can later be adopted by wealthier families. And so it just gives me the chills to think about. I think this is based on a real life. I'm not sure yet. So the next book that I have here is The Yellow Wife by Sadiqa Johnson. So this is a book about the life of this girl who lives on a plantation. She is actually a slave, but she is promised that she will be freed on her 18th birthday. However, she turns 18 and that never happens, and then she's trying to find her way to get herself out of slavery. Another heartbreaking story, intrigue about it, and yeah, definitely want to give this a go. So the next book that I have is called The Yellow Bird Sings. So this is another beautiful story of survival about World War II. So this mother is hiding with her 5-year-old daughter from the Nazi, and so to keep her quiet, she kind of tells her this story, this little fairy tale about this bird that has to be quiet. So I think it's a beautiful story about love. I know these were really difficult times, but amazing thing to see what's, like people do in order to survive, to make the children survive, and to create all these beautiful stories so the children don't have to see the cruel reality of what is really happening. So this is, I think, a beautiful story, and definitely I'm going to read this one really soon. So the next book that I have here is The Orphan Collector by Ellen Marie Wiseman. So this is a historical novel about the epidemic around the Spanish influenza. So it talks about how a lot of people were dying, children were left on the streets, and basically bad people taking advantage of these kids. And I think it's a heartbreaking story. It's a story also of family bonds and strength, inner human strength. So I have a lot of books, so I'm going to try to go a little bit faster. So this one right here is The Night House by Leigh Bardugo. So I've heard a lot about this book, but however, I don't know much about it going in other than what it says back here. So this is about Alex. And so basically Alex drops out of school early, gets into this really bad bad rep of being with boyfriends that are drug dealers, and somehow she gets this opportunity by someone who decides to donate some money towards her education. So she wants to take this opportunity, but also kind of wants to know where is this money coming from and what is the reason behind it. It has amazing reviews, so I really can't wait to get this a go. Okay, so the next book that I have here is Infinite Country by Patricia Engel. So this is a book about immigration, about family. Also, it talks about this girl who is escaping the violence from Colombia, and then she's trying to reunite with her father in the United States. So a lot of those elements I'm really interested on. This book is also about family, it's about forgiveness, and so yeah, I'm very intrigued about this. Okay, so now let's move into some thrillers. So here we have The Cousins by Karen Manus. And so this is a book about this family that so basically all of the cousins get invited to go to this island where supposedly they have inherited something from their grandmother. Now they've never met the grandma and they've never met their cousins, so you start wondering right there, why haven't this family meet? So when they get to this island, they realize that the grandmother has called them, not so much to claim some inherits, but something starts to happen in there. So I'm always intrigued about family secrets, so this seems to be a good one. So this next book is called The Wife Upstairs. This is a novel by Rachel Hawkins. So this is supposed to be a really fast-paced thriller about a love triangle. It is also compared with Jane Eyre as like a modern version of that. So I haven't read Jane Eyre either, but it's also on my plans to read really soon. So then I have The Mystery of Mrs Christie by Mary Benedict. So this book is a historical novel about Mrs. Agatha Christie. So basically she goes missing one day and she reappears 11 days later, and she has no memory of what has happened to her during those 11 days. So I'm excited to find out. So next I have The Sanatorium. So this is a novel, this is a thriller about this place where all these, it's like a mental health facility, and I think it's in an island or somewhere really far away. But then things start to happen there. So I kind of compared this to the movie Shutter Island with Leonardo DiCaprio that I really, really loved. So yeah, I'm intrigued about this and excited. I think thrillers are my new best friend. So I really love reading everything that's gonna keep me on the edge of my seat. So the next book that I have here is The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. So this book is about two twin sisters, and one of them discovers that she can't have kids, and then so the other one decides to be a good sister and basically have the baby for her, and then they're supposed to be finding who the father will be. I don't know much more, but that sounds really interesting to me, and so excited about this book. I love the cover here as well. So the next book that I have here is The Hunting Party, a novel by Lucy Foley. So I've heard so much about this book. So this is a murder mystery. So all of these basically friends are invited to this party. Have the beautiful one, the golden couple, the volatile one, the new parents, the quiet one, the city boy, or the outsider. So one of them won't make it out alive. Always love a good murder mystery novel. So the next book that I have here is The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. So this is another mystery book about this village where basically all of the town goes missing, and then so Alice, who is a filmmaker, goes with her crew to try to find out what has happened to them, and we don't know if she's going to come out of it or get lost as well. So interested about what happened. The next book that I have here is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for so long now. So this is about this girl. She makes a deal with the devil, and so she wants to live forever, and so she is granted that with the exception that nobody will remember her. So then she starts to live this lonely life, and until one day she meets someone who actually remembers her name, and then everything changes. So excited, super excited to read this book. Next book that I have here is Black Widows. This is by Kate Quinn. So this book is another murder mystery suspense novel about this guy who is killed by his wife. The question is which one, because he has three wives and they all suspect of each other, and so yeah, it sounds really interesting. So the next book that I have here is Bethelman by Karen Kelly. So this is a book about mystery and suspense and family tragedy. So basically this lady, she's young, she gets married to this guy, they go visit his family, and there she finds out about all of the mysteries that are happening there. So excited about this one. So the next book that I have here, it's a little bit more fun. So this one's called Beach Reads by Emily Henry, and this is a romantic novel about these two writers who basically they go to a house on the beach and they're like neighbors, and they're both going through writer's block, and I think they make a pact of like each writing each other's genre. I think she is a romantic writer and he is more like a fiction writer, and so they decide to kind of swap, and so I don't know what else happens honestly, but I'm excited to find out. Next book that I have here is called Wow Beauty by Anna Marie Macklemore, and so this book is about this group of cousins, and they have magical powers. They can grow flowers out of their hands, but they also have this curse that says that everyone they fall in love with will die. So I'm intrigued about knowing what is going to happen. So also I've heard so much about her writing style. I think it's going to be beautiful. I can't wait to get to this. Next book that I have here is The House in the Cerulean Sea. This is a book that had so many amazing reviews last year that I definitely had to pick it up. So this is about a group of children who live on this orphanage in an island, and all of these kids have magical powers, and they're supposed to be a danger for the world. That's why they have them on this island. And there's this guy called Linus, and he is a social worker in charge of making sure the kids have everything they need. So he gets sent onto this like secret mission to go visit the kids on this island, and that's all I know. Just can't wait to read it. So this is gonna go into my immediate TBR. The next book that I have here is called They Both Die at the End, and this is by Adam Silvera. So this book is about these two complete strangers, and they both get this memorandum or notification that they're both going to die in 24 hours. So somehow they get together to live the last day of their life together. And again, another one that I've heard a lot of great reviews about, so I'm excited to get to this one too. The next book that I have here is Such a Fun Age by Reid. So now this is her debut novel and already has a lot of great reviews. So this is about these two ladies, and one of them is named Alex and the other one is named Amira. So Alex is someone who's always fought for get what she wants, for what is right, and Amira is this girl on her 20s who is a babysitter. And so one day she was on a supermarket, and this is like a high-end supermarket, and because she was babysitting a white kid, she was accused of kidnapping. So that's when the other girl, Alex, goes and kind of helps fight for what's right. And so I'm very interested about this reading. Again, talks about some social issues. I don't know much more going into this, but it has a lot of great reviews, and yeah, I think it's an important read. It's also one of Reid's book clubs, so I always look for her recommendations as well. Okay, so here we have now Where the Crawdads Sing, and this is another murder mystery novel, and this is by Dahlia Owens, and this is her debut novel, and it already has a lot of amazing reviews. Again, it's one of Reid's book club. Book is about this girl. She basically lives isolated in the coast of North Carolina, and then they find this body near her area, so they start suspecting of her. And so yeah, I already have the audiobook for this, so I know this is gonna go super quick for me. So this next book is another one of Reid's book club picks, and this one is called Northern Spy by Flynn Berry. So this is a book about two sisters, and so one of the sisters' name is Tessa, which I love. And so basically she is having a hard time accepting that her sister is part of this IRA group, and she's kind of like a spy. So then she is faced with choosing basically doing something for her family or doing what's right. And so yeah, so again, another one of those books that I don't know much about going in, but I'm really intrigued about. The next book that I have here is The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. So this book, this is kind of like a thriller. So this is about these two women, and one is the clone of the other, and so the clone ends up having an affair with the woman's husband, and then he ends up dead, and then they are left to clean the mess. So it sounds like a really interesting story. We'll see how this turns out. So I have great hopes for this. So these next two books that I have here, they're both basically very inspirational. So this one here is called The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. So this is about the story of this family and how basically they made the American dream possible after the Great Depression. So I want to get to this one really soon. And the next one that I have here is The Woman of Chateau Lafayette. And again, this is another empowering story of women. And so this is, I think this is based on a real life. It says an epic saga based on the true story of a castle in the heart of France and the remarkable woman bound by its legacy. So yeah, it looks beautiful. It's a beautiful cover, and yeah, it's a large book, but I'm excited to get to this one. So this next book here is called There's Someone Inside Your House. This is by Stephanie Perkins, and it's a New York Times bestseller, and it's a Netflix film apparently, so I'm gonna have to watch that after I read this book. So this book is about Makani. She goes to live with her grandma, and all the kids, or some of the kids in the high school, kind of start dying one after another, and so she is trying to find out what is happening and if she is next. So the next book that I have here is called Birthday, and this is A Twisted Tale by Liz Brassel, and this is one of it's part of a CVS now. Basically what Disney is doing is kind of doing a remake of all of their Disney fairy tales, and they're supposed to have a twisted side to it. So I'm excited to get to this book. Alice in Wonderland is always my favorite, and I can't wait to see the twisted side of it. They do have it for all of the storybooks, so I'm gonna start with this one and see if I want to start like a little collection with all of the different Disney stories as well. Okay, so finally we have some middle grade books. So this one here is called Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan Crow, and this is by Jessica Townsend. So this is about this girl named Morrison, and she is supposed to be born cursed, and so all the town basically hates her, and she is also supposed to die by midnight on her 11th birthday. But then this guy Jupiter comes to basically save her and takes her to Nevermoor, where she hides her, and then she's given the opportunity to kind of save herself from her future by going to these 4 different trials. So yeah, I heard a lot of good things about this book. Again, so excited. Then I have here The Secret Garden, which is also a classic. I love this beautiful edition. I got this one at Barnes & Noble. I think it's so pretty. And so the next one is Anne of Green Gables, another edition from Barnes & Noble that I think is so pretty. This is another children's classics books. I actually never read this book, and I know there's a Netflix movie about it too. This next one is called The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane by Julia Novel. I love this cover. So this is like a middle grade dark academia type of book. So this book is the story of Emmy. Emmy's dad has disappeared, and her mom basically has no time to take care of her, so she sends her to this boarding school. And so before she goes to the boarding school, she goes to her attic and find all these medallions that used to belong to her dad. And then when she gets to the school, she starts seeing the same symbols on this society, and she starts to wonder if they have some sort of relation on, you know, her father's disappearance. It's supposed to be a super fast read. I want the girls to read it as well, and so yeah, the cover is super cute, so it is going to be on my TBR. So finally, I have here Winter Keep. This book is by Kristen Cashore, and so this is another fantasy book. This is about this town, and they have these queens, and then basically they can communicate telepathically with foxes. Just look at the beautiful fox here. There is another one in there as well. How cute is this cover? It also has some political views on, you know, the way how they're ruling the land. And so yeah, so I think it's gonna be a really great book to read, and yeah, another exciting find. So that is it for this extensive book haul. I hope that you guys were able to find any good book recommendations. Let me know what books are you reading. Let me know if you have read any of the books that I have mentioned, and if you have any recommendations on books for me to pick up. And I hope that you guys are having a beautiful week, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.